Manoj Night Shayamalan, namaste and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Night, your new movie, The Village, is of course a completely original and new story, but at the same time, I think it would be fair to say perhaps that, like the previous movies, it does hinge on the premise of the unseen and the unknown. Now, is that something that sort of comes naturally to you, or do you sort of sit down to write that when you do?
No, it comes so, I mean, it would be unnatural to not have it in there, you know? When someone, I've had advice from friends that other directors and stuff, hey, why don't you do something else? And I said, I would if it wasn't, that's me, you know? And they said, you know, this supernatural genre, you want to leave it? And I was like, I don't know, I didn't know there was a genre like this until The Sixth Sense, so I guess, you know, why would I want to leave it? This is my house, you know? It's very, if it does feel natural, if I think of a love story, which is what this is.
Right.
This is my version of a period love story, you know? And it's going to come out feeling weird and tense.
Right. Like you said, this is the love story. It's a sweeping love story on one level. And that is a fairly new sort of genre for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my Indian roots coming out. All the romance and all. There's one really kind of romantic thing with her hand out and all that stuff. That's kind of Indian. Did you see my homage to Indian shots in there, to candles, all those candles? Every time we were shooting, I was like, this is my Indian movie shot. So, but no, I really love romantic things, and I never had a chance to make it as the forefront, the top story in the movie. So I'm very happy to show some of that romantic side.
Apparently, you have a book of story ideas, which you sort of every time you make notes and refer to that.
Well, you know, like right now would be a time when I'm thinking about ideas, and I'd say, oh, well, that's a cool idea, and then I put it down in maybe 2 lines or 3 lines or something like that, or something like, no one's really made the definitive story about comic books or something. I might write that line 3 years ago and then write Unbreakable from that, you know, that kind of thing. You know, so, or a question mark, ghost question mark, or something like that, you know?
Tell me, I know that you've lived in America all your life, but you were born in India and you've been raised to Indian parents. Tell me, is there anything about your movies, about your writing perhaps, that reflects in any side or any sort of sensibility of yours that might be Indian?
Well, yes, for sure. It's the assumption of things that we can't see. I think that's a very, very Indian conceit, you know, in its tradition and in its, you know, spirituality of it. And it just manifests itself in supernatural. But that assumption it feels very natural. My mom, you know, does pujas and, you know, gets rid of the ghost in the basement. And it's very natural, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's not, oh my gosh, mom's crazy. That's just being Indian, you know, we take that for granted, and everything's okay, we did the thing. Someone says very complimentary things, they're doing this thing to me, you know, in the middle of the night, they would come into the bedroom and start doing this. It's all, you know, part of the culture.
While making, actually, before you started filming The Village, apparently you insisted on a 3-week rehearsal and a sort of familiarization period,
right.
which was sort of designed to familiarize the actors with their characters. Now, considering you didn't have that luxury on the previous films, to what extent and how really would you say has this sort of benefited the actors in perhaps realizing their roles?
Well, I think that, you know, when it's done is usually because the movies are so small and the actors and directors are so hungry that the only chance they have is if this is really, really true, someone might see the movie. And, you know, and I wanted to, even though our movie is a big movie, I wanted us to have that kind of ethic, you know? And it's almost like you know, when I went to India and shot Praying with Anger, I was like astonished at how the movie industry works over there, that actors are doing multiple movies at the same time, they just show up and then they say the thing. And to some extent we do that, you know, like the superstar shows up a couple days before, gets dressed, we talk over the thing, he already knows his lines and everything, and we go. But I didn't want it to be like that. I wanted it to be like theater and really, you know, before the cameras roll, everybody knows everything. We've talked about it for hours and hours and hours, hundreds of hours of rehearsal, and we learn about the period, and everything's really authentic and real. And so you get that kind of desperate truth because we have gone that deeply into acting. And so I feel like the acting level of the movie is at the highest that I've ever had.
You know, it's interesting that you spoke about the Indian movie industry and what you've heard about it. Incidentally, in the last couple of years, the Indian movie industry has sort of, you know, it is sort of making waves even outside of India. Have you perhaps followed, did you read about it? Do you know anything about what sort of goes on in...
Well, through my wife, who watches all this stuff. So she showed me. I've only seen a couple Indian movies. She showed me Devdas. You know, she's like, you have to see this movie. So I watched that movie in our theater, and Lagan I saw.
Okay.
Those are the two. And I've seen bits of hundreds of them as I walk by the family room or the living room, and my wife's watching it, or my aunt's watching it, my mom's watching it, and they're all talking and chit-chatting, and then the rushing close up into the guy 8 times as he's saying so.
Finally, you're now working on an adaptation of the novel The Life of Pi. Now, what's interesting about that film is that it doesn't have, you can't cast a white American lead because it's about an Indian boy. Are the studios going to sort of let you do that, or and can we sort of expect that you perhaps will cast Indian actors for those from India, perhaps?
Well, there's 2 things I'd say to that. I think that the book itself is one of the things I said to them was, you know, we have an advantage with me doing it, other than someone else doing it. Not forget about quality. Let's say everybody's equal on the quality of execution, but the advantage with me doing it is you can sell the movie on me, and so we don't have to change the book to put in a white lead. You know, if we don't feel that that's organic to the movie, you know, whereas in another scenario, they would almost have to merit the cost of making that movie, they'd have to put in a role that a white lead could do to merit the cost, whereas they don't need to do that with me. And so the integrity of the book has a chance of being sustained just a little bit more. Again, who knows if I'll make a good movie, but it's nice. They feel comforted knowing that they know who they're going to sell the movie on.
Right. Well, congratulations on a wonderful new movie, and let's hope we see a lot more interesting stuff from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.